The Who, What and Why of Qualitative Research. Week 8, Analysis and Reporting. Qualitative Research Analysis. Reporting qualitative research results is vastly different to reporting quantitative research results. The latter is numeric, it's statistical, analytical, and descriptive. In contrast, qualitative research is inductive, it's theoretical, interpretative, and probes much deeper than quantitative research. There are different methods of qualitative analysis. Content analysis is one of them, and this measures responses against predetermined propositions. Grounded theory is a continuous process of conceptualization, insight, comparison, and distinction. Coding is noting and coding recurring conditions under which certain attitudes or behaviours are noted, and your textbook will illustrate other methods of qualitative research analysis as well. The researcher is constantly seeking the main story. What is at the core of the behaviour or the attitude that we're seeing? What is really happening to drive this? How deep or entrenched is it? And should it be changed, or can it be changed? Okay, so just take a look at American attitudes to non-whites as an example from the mid-1800s to the mid-1900s. And this is in an attempt to understand how the dominant discourse influences attitudes. Advertising and marketing had a lot to do with influencing the negative attitudes to American blacks in the late 19th to the mid-20th century. And these attitudes didn't emerge spontaneously, but were in response to complex and repeated myth-making and degradation, both overt and subtle. So have a look at a couple of ads from the period. The first one here is for Fairy Soap from about 1875, and it shows the dark-skinned girl as unwashed. The fair-skinned girl is saying, "Why doesn't your mama wash you with Fairy Soap?" indicating the superiority of fair skin. In the other ad, this early 20th century representation of a Canadian First Nations person is shown as the noble savage. He's not too bad. He's saying, "My skin is dark, but my heart is white, and I also give to the Canadian Patriotic Fund." This underpins this black equals bad and white equals good mnemonic that is being used time and time again to influence attitudes. These representations of good and bad are so simplistic, almost natural, that the real intent of the message may be lost on the observer, especially so at that time in America. There are subtleties and nuances that need to be teased out. We need to ask, what is the underlying code in all of this? What lies behind these particular examples being used to represent implied product benefits? The value of the black people represented is subsumed in a code for exchange value, i.e. their worth to the advertisers. The people who consume this advertising, the audience, the reader, the observer, become caught up in an ideology to which they may or may not have been a subscriber. We're drawn along with the persuasion of the goodness of white and the badness of black. So we are all used and fooled. What has this to do with qualitative analysis, you might ask? So the foregoing example is an illustration of discourse analysis. And discourse analysis is just one form of qualitative research analysis. It takes into account not only what is said, but also the context in which it is said. So it uses surrounding cues such as the tone of voice, body language, humour, a moral stance, context, and so on to interpret the message. It can appear friendly and understanding, and yet it can act as a poison chalice insofar as the topic under research is concerned. So just a very simple example is given here. A person in a group discussion or an interview might say something like, "Oh, she is very confident about how she looks. I wish I had her confidence." And the subtext is pretty obvious. What she really means is, she is vain and not very attractive, and I'm so glad I'm not like her. You'll hear a lot about grounded theory and analysis in relation to qualitative research, and it's quite a difficult concept for us to grasp at first, so I'll just give a little note here on it. And while content analysis may start from a specific or known point, grounded theory assumes there's no particular start point. It attempts to derive a theory from the data rather than the data driving the research. Grounded theory requires the researcher to put aside his or her predetermined knowledge, perceptions and conceptions, and to isolate ideas and points emerging spontaneously from the qualitative data. And this opens up potential avenues to be pursued. Do these recur in subsequent group discussions or in-depth interviews? Is there a theme emerging here, something we haven't previously recognised? Unlike content analysis, which proceeds from a fixed assumption or theory, grounded theory allows the data to speak for itself. So overall then, qualitative research aims to comprehensively explore the lived experience of people as they interact with something. And this may be a product, a service, a group, an art form, a sport. In fact, any aspect of society in which people participate or choose not to participate or are unable to participate. Its primary requirement of the researcher is to put aside any preconceptions and received knowledge that they may have and explore the relationship from within the research sample. Put simply, we are all subject to manipulations of our innermost principles and attitudes, and quite often to a large extent, and yet we are often unaware of how these ideas have come about. And that's why in qualitative research we need to shed our preconceptions as much as we possibly can, and we really need to probe and continue to probe the research audience. We need to go away and seriously interrogate the data, and that means reflecting on everything that we've seen and heard. We go over our notes again and again, and we listen to recordings and watch videos if they've been taken to observe any unspoken responses. And we must recognise that what someone says and what they mean may quite often be two different things. As researchers, it is incumbent upon us to delve beneath the surface and to unravel the true story.